ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula instead of those other name brand Draculas on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton coming to you once again from the home of the Transylvania twist. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest, bloodiest details of, what was it, 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula, in the hopes that a young ingenue's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust, that if I say, hey, you can't drink this lady's blood, she'll go, okay, I'll kill a horse instead. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I'm doing great. I've crossed oceans of time to find you.
It's coming on a bit strong.
I was going to say, it doesn't work without the very sexual and like European accent into it, does it?
This may be, and it's weird to say this might be the horniest movie we've ever covered. I mean, it is, I'd say, leads with its horniness and everything else comes after.
Yeah. I feel like we both need smoking jackets for this one. Well, I mean, which is kind of funny for you to say that, because we have done 2 years now of an entire month devoted to erotic thrillers.
Right. Yeah.
And this is leagues more erotic than anything we've covered in those segments.
It is definitely very forward about the sexuality. And it's not to say that other Draculas, that even ones we've covered, like the 79 version of Dracula, doesn't have a massive sexual component to it. But because they have committed to this in a way that I don't think leads to your normal erotic interludes necessarily, because it's very gore forward. It's very much epistolatory, like the book. There are a lot of roadblocks. Everyone's accent, let's say, to erotic thoughts portrayals.
Not everybody's.
Oh, Gina. I'll finish this thought, then we'll come back to accents, because that has to be discussed. But I do think there is something to, this is very raw and sexual in nature. And it's not just because he's hot, because I don't think Gary Oldman is conventionally hot the way Langella was. He's unconventionally hot, certainly with that fucking mustache. And as a result, what you're getting is something that feels slightly uncomfortable, not because it's too weird for the straights, but it does not feel like a conventional erotic sort of thrust.
So to speak.
Yeah.
You stepped right into that one, baby.
I did.
This is like when you describe romance novels as bodice rippers.
Right.
This is a bodice ripper.
Yes.
And it's not just to bite you.
Yeah, there's penetration involved. There's penetration of all sorts. And there's a lot about the movie that I find revolutionary. And let's just come right out and say it. I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you hear me denigrate any component of it, these are nitpicks. These are small dings of preference. But in my mind, they don't stop the power of the film, which is so dedicated to its specific bit that you simply have to admire it. It's doing exactly what it wants to do. There are, all the effects are in camera. There's no photochemical process, with the exception of like backdrops are used and rear projection is used, but there's no CGI in this motherfucker. There isn't even a hint of things that you might find in a Hitchcock movie. This is a very old school with an emphasis on old.
Yes. I have been in a 32-year love affair with this movie. I saw it in the theater, and then I went again the week after, and then proceeded to buy up every single scrap of material I could buy that had to do with it.
Did you have the Mike Mignola comic book? Because I did that. I had that.
I believe that I did. I know my treasured possession, which I no longer have, unfortunately, was a book dedicated to the costume design, which is, oh, that's all I could do is let out an orgasmic groan in terms of just how I feel about the costume design in this.
A large portion of, twice what he had ever spent before was dedicated to costumes. And he said, costumes in this movie are like a special effect to me. They have to dazzle. They have to confound. They have to tell a story. They have to communicate character. This movie is so lyrical, it won't always be said out loud. And so when you look at one of these characters, you have to know exactly how they're feeling in that moment and what their place in the world is. And that requires lots of costumes. And you absolutely cannot, like, that armor to what people wear in the street to, what various people, Romani people wear in Transylvania. Like, a lot is going on here in terms of being a sumptuous adaptation.
Well, some of it is eroticized. Some of it is just kind of spooky. Some of it is just downright creepy. Like one of my favorite designs is, and this is getting way into the movie, but is Lucy's burial gown, which is straight up inspired by a frilled lizard. With the costume designer, Aiko Ishida, I believe. Unfortunately, she passed away some years ago. Says she was inspired by the way a frilled lizard, the thing comes up when they're showing that they are not to be messed with, and she has this thing around her head, and it kind of looks like that. It's very creepy.
Yeah. I love the costumes in this. I mean, they're
wonderful. You've got this first scene introducing Lucy and Mina, and Mina's got the very demure dress with the vines pattern on it, and Lucy's wearing a dress with a snake pattern on it. I mean, a lot of it isn't subtle, but it just works, and I love it, and it's such a feast for the eyes.
So my history with the film was I was serving a mission for the Mormon Church when the film came out.
Oh, no.
And I could not convince anyone to break the rules for this particular movie. So I had to wait 6 or 7 months until I came home, and then I caught it on home video. So I have never seen it on the big screen, something I woefully regret. And whenever it seems to come up in local revival houses, it's always at a time I can't do it. But one of these days, my mission is to see this fucking movie on a big screen.
And hopefully, like the stars will align, and we're in the same place at the same time. Suddenly, magically, there'll be a theater screening it.
It is just incredible. And obviously, I now own a 4K of it. So last night was my debut of running the 4K, and it just looks so good. I loved it. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch the first half, because I really want to examine the Harker sequence in particular, but I've seen the movie a whole bunch of times, so I don't know that I necessarily need to see the whole thing. And then I'll watch a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And then I am watching it to the very end. I could not turn it off. I did not watch any behind the scenes because I had to work today.
It's eminently rewatchable. I probably watch it at least once per year.
It's so painterly in so many respects. And every part of this really comes from love, right? And it's so weird that Coppola, this wasn't something he wanted to do. Like, I've always had this in my back pocket. I've always wanted to do Dracula. He was pitched this by Winona Ryder, who had to drop out of Godfather 3. And as a makeup for that, because she got caught up in a bunch of different things in terms of her availability, and she had to drop out. And so she always felt bad about that and said, I still truly would love to work with you. And this is a thing I think you would be able to come, because you've never quite done this before. He'd done cheapy horrors, but he had never done something on this grand scale. And it starts a mini revolution because we're at a weird point in horror
where it sucked.
Where it sucks. The slasher boom is over. The 80s, VHS thrust is kind of waning. People are looking for something new.
Yeah, I mean, 92, you had this and you had Candyman, and that was it as far as like actual good horror.
Two of the most romantic horror films ever made. Both are gothic as hell and are truly incredible motion pictures in terms of people translating their ideas of what the characters are to the screen. Now, people at home are saying, but hold on. Wait a second. You're telling me that Keanu Reeves is absolutely delivering the type of performance he wanted to deliver? And my answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I mean, when I first watched it, obviously when it came out, he was not Keanu yet. Yes. He specialized in, playing these kind of big, dumb puppy dogs. And, at the time, I did think he was the weakest element of the movie. But I'll tell you a little secret why I thought that. It's because I hadn't read the book yet.
Right.
And then I read the book and I'm like, oh, he fucking read this shit before he knows exactly how to play this character. As just a wet noodle.
We have been on the forefront of the unifying Harker's a weenie theory.
Right, but I will say, as opposed to the David Manners Harker in the original Dracula and whatever the fuck the actor's name was in the Frank Langella Dracula.
Yeah, who that dork was.
He is, and a lot of this has to do with just him being Keanu Reeves, and it's hard not to like him. Mm-hmm. He comes off more as boyish than a dud. And very naive and innocent, and more that than just a stuck up prude, where and then of course Dracula shows up and he's a man, whereas Jonathan is just a nice boy. He's a nice boy.
Yes. Yeah. Does he have a great grasp on the English accent? No. I would argue,
but neither does Winona.
No, she doesn't. And here's my next argument, Gina. No one has a good accent in this movie, and I don't fucking care. You're telling me Tom Waits is a fully realized human being in this fucking movie? You're telling me Billy Campbell is really bringing whatever that, truly dime store cowboy shit that is going on between him and it's just...
I will say I'm gonna give it to Cary Elwes and Richard E. Grant, because I think that's just their accents. Mm-hmm. Cary Elwes kind of amps up the Victorian a little bit. Like when he bursts into Lucy's room, he's like, what's happening here?
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden, he's drawing a lot of chin and jaw into everything.
And you know what? I like Gary Oldman's accent. I think it's a generic Eastern European accent.
That comes and goes.
I think the thickness of it and it sounds very foreign. It's capital F foreign, and right. I think it's just meant to be such a drastic change from how everyone else speaks in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think is it an authentic Hungarian or Romanian or whatever accent's supposed to be? I don't really know. I haven't met that many Romanian or Hungarian people in my life. Right. But I think for the part, it works really well.
I don't believe Anthony Hopkins is
German
serving a real German accent here. That is Whacktown.
I love it.
Even Sadie Frost, who is British, is doing a very specific dialect.
It's like they're all trying for a posh English accent, or what they think is a posh English accent.
Something high-fluted, disconnected from everyday working people.
What I just think is funny is, casting Winona and Keanu is that, this is from an era, where you had Kevin Kline doing Robin Hood, and we don't need to elaborate on that. That's all. Not Kevin Kline, sorry, Kevin Costner, where you had a lot more American actors trying and usually massacring English accents. And now, of course, the tides have turned. You've got predominantly English actors doing American accents with, varying results. So, I think, if they were to cast this now, they would it would be an entirely English cast.
As a result, because to my mind, no one is doing anything absolutely accurate or anything absolutely consistent. They're all wackadoo. Then how can you point at one or two wackadoo accents and go, well, that's ruining the movie? You have to ignore all the other wackadoo accents. I'm sorry. He's going for something specific. And with the exception of that, oh my, he's here. The man is here. Like we could get a take two on that one.
It's the man himself.
The man himself.
He's grown young.
But again, the guy is such a wiener that he's led by the nose. And the scene that really stuck out to me last night, because I had, I focused on other things. It's not really fantastical. But when his boss at his legal real estate firm or whatever the fuck he works for,
he's a solicitor. Hey, thank you very much.
Sure. It's made up. It might as well be jetpacks involved. Like that's a real fucking thing. But he's like, hey, so remember the guy you used to work with? I sent him to Transylvania and he came back eating bugs. Don't worry. That's a personal problem. It wasn't anything about the trip itself. He was eventually going to eat bugs and it just happened to occur.
He's just suffering from a little exhaustion. You know how it is.
So you need to delay your wedding and get out to Transylvania, which is super easy to do. It takes 4 hours by plane? Oh, I'm sorry. It takes days and days and days. And then you have the most dangerous coach transfer of all fucking time.
He's like, sure thing, boss. Or I'm sorry,
he's like,
sure thing, boss.
Like, what am I to do? My place is to be assured if I perform this task. And Mina's like, hey.
But Mina's like, I'm really horny and I'd like to get married soon so we can take care of that.
We need to touch our junk. All right. You have parts that go inside my parts, and I really need that to happen. And in order for that to fucking happen, we need to get married. He's like, I don't know. I think I might need, a bigger title at work and a corner.
I think we can wait. I think we could wait another 6 months or so for this.
It's fine. I'm going to go to Transylvania. When was the last time you heard something bad happen in Transylvania? And so that to me leapt out as, this dude, in many ways, is a massive weenie on multiple levels, but he's pretty, right? So in Mina's eyes, like
he's pretty and he's nice. He's a good stock.
Yes,
he'll make a fine husband.
Will he? Gina, let's review not what happens to him, but when he escapes his situation of getting banged nearly to death every single night. And he's like, they're sapping me of my strength. I know it's hard to have sex with 3 of the hottest women on the planet. It's tough.
It's hard to lay there and let them do all the work.
Right. It's great for the first 3 to 4 weeks. And then after that, you're like, they keep finding crazy places to bite me that gets me hard. And I can't stop it. It's literally sapping the color out of my hair. That's how much cum is coming out of it. And he escapes this situation by doing some flim flam. He ends up at a convent. He's like, finally, some women who won't try to have sex. And he writes a letter to Mina. It was like, I'm really scared for you. Come to this forlorn fucking country and let's marry so that I can never touch you ever again because my penis is exhausted. It's never getting hard again.
It is worn down to a nubbin.
I have been whittled in the penile department, but I'm sure you'll be fine with that. It's not like you've been having the greatest time with the hottest foreigner who knows all the loose wolves in town. I mean, oh my God. And that's his solution to this. I'm afraid of what's happening to you. Absolutely get away from that guy. He's so hot. Come to this foreign country, and so we can barely ever touch again.
So we can get married in this extremely dreary Russian Orthodox wedding.
It's like it's a funeral. Because it practically is. It's definitely a funeral for her vagina because that's closed for business. That is my rant about Jonathan Harker's penis, everybody.
Well, I do think I think that, even though the novel Dracula can be very obviously interpreted as a metaphor for xenophobia.
Yes.
I think that this movie, it's just more straightforward, fear some older European dude stealing your girl phobia.
I think it has a very deliberate anti-women's liberation energy going on. And I don't mean that it's unintentional. I mean, it's structured in such a way that how Lucy acts and how Mina act are not very hyper-Victorian. And as a result, they are castigated. Lucy dies because she's got 3 guys she wants to choose from. Whereas old Drac in his castle is like, these bitches are killing me. I got 3 of the hottest chicks in the game wearing my chain, which does not contain a cross, and I'm done. They are sucking me dry out of house and home. And I asked them to do one thing, not fucking suck Keanu Reeves. And they can't do it. And they're like, what about us? And he's like,
it is fresh.
I brought you a baby. What do you want?
You can't split a baby between 3 people. There's not enough to go around.
But it's not like their bellies aren't full in that situation. They don't need a full meal. They're practically topped up. The baby is dessert. But that is the thing that returns when Lucy turns into a full vampire eventually. And they go to her grave and they're like, oopsie doodle. She's out and about and she comes back and she's got a fucking toddler. This is very pointedly directed at the female characters in this movie and like what their attitudes are now going to be punished. Not because they should be punished, but because that is what society did to women like this.
Right.
So when I allude to these sort of misogynistic attitudes and events that happen in the movie, it is not because I'm condemning them because they're bad. What I'm saying is that they are portraying bad situations and making grandiose horror elements out of them. They're spun out of a truth. They are emotionally true and obviously physically untrue. But I think that is a big push here. There's some level of the constant xenophobia, but I really feel like there's an element to this that is like modernity will fucking kill you.
Oh yeah.
And not in a good way. It's not saying like, and we should all just like fuck off and go back to the old rules. It's just like society can't handle this shit. And Dracula happens as a result of the patriarchy going, no. We're putting everything, all the puzzle pieces back into the place the way it was.
Well, there's so much that a lot of technology that was considered rather state of the art at the time that is prominently featured in this movie. You've got train travel. You've got Dr. Seward is recording his notes on a phonograph.
The typewriter.
In the typewriter, the telegraph. You've got movies. It is absolutely uncoincidental that Mina has her first encounter with Count Dracula. You know, she's kind of peeking in on like the screening of a movie. Mm-hmm. So, you know, which is like that, you know, that's the future, baby, is right in front of you.
Yes. And hence why it chooses, and Coppola is like, he initially went in with a traditional special effects team, and they pushed him to go photochemical, and they pushed him to do effects that were more state of the art. And he said, that's not what this movie is about. This isn't about hyper realism or creating something that anyone in the audience would go, that's fake. The point is, it's all fake. It's emotionally true.
Yeah.
And he, at a certain point, he's just like, I'm going to bring in a family member, which is rare for the Coppola clan. They are they put on the brakes every time. They're like, I don't know if I need to bring a family member into this. But he's like, no. I'm going to bring in a family member, and they're going to be the visual effects people. And we are going to do shit in camera with models and back projection and all the stuff that I have heard complaints about. Like, that doesn't look real. Yeah, it's not supposed to.
Yeah,
there's no blue flame gates in the world, y'all.
You know what else isn't real?
What?
Vampires.
Definitely emotional vampires are true or real things.
Well, yes, that's true.
Blood-sucking ones I'm not too sure about. With the exception of those guys in Silicon Valley who are sucking blood from their own young people.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I was going to say that they're not literally biting into them, but they might be. They might be. You know, to quote our God willing future vice president, those people are very weird.
Yes. It should be noted that I unequivocally believe the first hour and 15 minutes of this, I have no fucking notes on. No real notes. I'm sorry.
No, again, it's
fucking perfect.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's introducing the characters. A lot of it's very atmospheric.
Yes.
You've got a lady having sex with a werewolf man.
As it, you know, listen, whomst amongst us?
I mean, that werewolf man is fucking ripped. He's shredded like lettuce.
He is fucking built. He is a Sigma werewolf. And she's having a great time. It's not just about his pleasure.
She is
having orgasms before being bitten in the neck. And to me, that means everyone's getting a little something out of it. You know what I mean? We're exchanging fluids. What's a little blood?
Yeah, I mean, he's easing them into it. You know, he's not just grabbing ladies and pulling them into the bushes and having his way with them. You know, he's
absolutely true. Yes.
He's warming them up.
The pre-credit sequence in which we get the Vlad the Impaler backstory is very, very interesting because I can't remember any other Dracula film before this taking this very specific route.
No, because this is most of the time. I mean, sometimes you get a little bit of the whole Mina looks like the lost love of his life, but to kind of make a more romantic character than a monster. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't think they've ever had this entire elaborate introduction as to how exactly he became a vampire.
Yeah, and I do have some character notes, particularly for Vlad, to listen to your wife, dude.
I mean, he's a warrior. He's out there. He doesn't have time for that nonsense.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. You hear the name Impaler and you think, cute, but probably not accurate. But no, he walks it like he spears it, Gina. He puts the impaling into
he does. He is absolutely very enthusiastic about his work.
And I enjoy the shadow puppet angle of this because it's something we revisit over and over and over again. I love
the shadow puppet work in this. My two favorite moments are when Dracula and Mina are having dinner together, mm-hmm. and you can see the people in the background dancing. And then later when she sends her the Dear Vlad letter, and he's trying not to cry, and they're all just kind of like slumped over in the background, and it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, Francis, you're so fucking good at this. God.
Oh, it's really, really good. It's so intentional. It's one of those things that I love about a great director who always makes the audience look in the direction he wants them to look at. It's not happenstance that you find yourself following a shadow behind and then he comes from a different direction. These are very intentional camera moves that are meant to evoke emotional reactions to it. And I love when that shit happens. And he's not unique in this, obviously. But regardless of what he will do after this, which we'll just start with Jack for one, which is one of the worst movie-going experiences of my entire life.
You would not, like, if either of these were if you watch these back to back as your first introduction to the work of Francis Ford Coppola, you would be like, no, that can't be the same director. And somehow it is.
Yeah. But for him, I think this is very in line with his best movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, as far as you're talking, like, very, elaborate and metaphorical, moments and, kind of, nightmare logic, you got to go back to Apocalypse Now.
Yes, absolutely. And this plays out in such an unmodern way in terms of how it transitions from one thing to the next. It does not play by the rules of 90s movies at its time, and it certainly doesn't play like them now. And I do think that can throw the uninitiated. They will look at it and it's like, it's not operating the way I think a movie is supposed to operate. And I kind of have to go, yeah, because it's not in any way, shape, or form trying to be a modern movie.
No.
It is. But when you compare it to, let's say, the original Nosferatu or the original 31 Dracula, those films start so strong, particularly Dracula, which sets the tone for what a horror film will be for decades. And this says, okay, but we're gonna do the other two acts. We're gonna
add like Quincy P. Morris into this shit.
Right.
A character who, to my knowledge, has been you overwhelmingly left out of most adaptations of Dracula.
Yes, I think that, and whether it's good or bad or whatnot, I think it is plainly that the most successful, with the exception of everything that comes after Bram Stoker's, of the Dracula interpretations, are vibing off of the play. What people have seen on stage. Right. That's what Dracula is. And it really isn't until the Hammer films, which we're going to have to at least cover one Hammer movie of the Christopher Lee cycle. And I would love people and their suggestions as to which one of those we should cover, because we can't cover all of them. But what's the most representative? What do we think the best one is? I think that's the direction I want to go in. But in those, he is a pure monster, and he can become a pure monster in this. But even when he's a giant bat, even when he's a giant werewolf, he's like, but I'm sad.
Right. Like he doesn't want to do this because but he's just so lonely.
And it just goes to show you and I keep going back because who cares? Like, what is the plot of this movie?
It's Dracula.
It's fucking Dracula. You know what's going to happen. But Elizabetha does something that I think modern watchers of this film should absolutely do. And that is get a fucking second source when everyone tells you that your husband is dead. Especially before you launch yourself into a fucking river.
That could have prevented all of this.
How they accomplish that is still one of the most fantastic magic tricks in this movie that is filled with in-camera magic tricks. It is just really cool to watch. And so, wouldn't you know it, as soon as she's dead, you know, with sitcom timing, here comes Vlad. All he wants to do is hang out with his girl, but she done flung herself into the river, and then Priest Boy.
There's a bad news and a worse news scenario here. The bad news is your wife is dead.
Yeah.
The worst news is she's going straight to hell because she committed suicide.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Straight to hell. We'll never see heaven. It's just bad news for her. Wish she just could have talked to somebody about it, but nope. She committed suicide, so she's donezo. And as you might imagine, Vlad takes this really well.
Well, I'll tell you what. Another thing I have to thank Dracula for is my love of the cramps. Yeah. Because in reading behind the scenes trivia about it, the scream he lets out is not a special effect. That scream was let out by one Lux Interior. Oh. And I read that. I was like, Lux Interior, that's a cool name. Let me look up who this guy is. The Cramps, never heard of them. That's pretty cool.
This is one of the weirder. So I guess you're wondering how I became a vampire. Well, when my sword stabbed a blood-filled cross, that's unusual. Is the cross, has it always been filled with blood? Or is it just now that it's soaked up a bunch of blood to be used to become vampiric?
Yeah, I think that when he basically renounced God, God was like, well, that's how that cross is filled with blood.
Fill that cross with blood then. What are you going to do now? And he's like, I'm going to stab it. I'm going to put it into a chalice and I'm going to drink it. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You put the blood in the cross, my man. What did you think was going to fucking happen? He likes stabbing shit.
Yeah, no. I just meant for you to like drown in it or some shit.
But like all this, well, not all that we've discussed in the 30 plus minutes we've been going forward, but the cross, the battle, the shadow play, the suicide off of the side of the castle into the river, all that happens pre-credits. And then Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let's look at London, Dateline London, and the the title card that says 4 centuries later. Like this movie has a winning streak a mile long, Gina.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I know that you hold very dear to your heart the concept of there's no such thing as bad opinions on stuff like this, but like anytime I see somebody say like, oh, it's so bad, it's good, I'm like, no. Get better taste.
Honestly, I do think some of it has to do. This is a cinephile's movie, and for good or for bad, I think it can be easily misinterpreted as something that is cheesy, something that is too old-fashioned, something that doesn't work for modern audiences. And I think a lot of people bring their baggage into this movie. And I think maybe the first couple of times I saw it, I brought that into it.
I loved it from the start. I cried at the end. I loved it immediately.
There are elements of this that are just going to bump for certain people. And what are you going to do? A movie doesn't work just because it works for everyone or doesn't work for everyone. There is gray. But if this is not, in my opinion, a copyright Gina Radcliffe, it's fine movie.
Oh, no. Yeah, every opinion is very wildly either it's incredible or again, so bad it's good is the one I see a lot. I'm like, I don't even know what that means in this context.
And I, did my due diligence and I looked up some contemporary reviews at the time, and it wasn't as enjoyed as it is now. But even now, like I read a review where someone's like, does this work 32 years later? And in my opinion, it doesn't. It's too rigidly out of its time. And I'm like, There was no another 1992 movie that
No.
looked exactly like this.
No.
And now, certainly, Candyman has a lot in common with it thematically, but is obviously reconstituting those gothic elements into something completely different. But there absolutely is nothing about this movie that reeks of 1992 outside of Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves.
Well, I think that, yeah, no, I was going to say exactly that. And I think so many people harp on Keanu Reeves' supposedly bad performance in it, that they can't, everything is just, their entire opinion is based on that. Just like, oh, well, it ruined the whole movie for me. Well, that's too fucking bad. He's in it for about, a grand total of about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
He's a supporting character.
And I don't think they get the point of him, because I think they look at Keanu Reeves and go, that guy's a movie star. Look how fucking beautiful he is. Right. And this is the way he acts. And once again, everyone, Harkers are fucking weenies.
Yeah, and there's never been a Harker in which, when you get to the end of the movie, you think to yourself, boy, I'm glad Mina and Jonathan are back together.
Oh, they were meant to be. Just look at them.
It's like, oh, I wish them a very happy arranged marriage.
The man is led like a lamb to the slaughter by his boss, who, after the guy who previously held the position came back from a business meeting eating bugs, Gina, is just like, I need to be in super long sleeves. No one trusts me to have hands.
Oh my God. Going back to costume design again. I fucking love the Tim Burton-esque, like, Hardy turns into the carnival ride, he like unfurls his arms.
Mm-hmm,
and the straitjacket design reminds, why the fuck are the arms in the straitjacket so long?
Well, I think there's obviously a journey that happens here, because when you first meet him, he's got these wire things on his fingers so he can't make fists.
Right.
And then obviously that's not big enough, because when he tries to take a chunk out of his doctor's neck, it's kind of like, all right, we need to make sure he just doesn't have access.
You've got the guards and the insane asylum with like the little miniature iron bars around their heads.
The Faraday cages around their head.
It's so good. I love it. It's so fucking weird. Is that historically accurate? I don't fucking know, and I don't care.
Who cares? There's no historically accurate Draculas.
Yeah.
That's not something I need.
You know what I mean? You know what else is historically accurate? Vampires.
Right. There's no point to it. There's no I don't need realism in my vampire. That is not a peanut butter to the chocolate of the subject matter.
Victorian insane asylum guards didn't wear steel bars around their head. Well, there wasn't like super ripped wolfmen going around having sex with ladies. Maybe there should have been.
Right. Maybe a lot would have changed for the better.
That was a pretty uptight time.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
And so, what happens next in this, with the whole Harker is my favorite section of the movie, because you can tell there's a level of artifice that is exactly what Coppola has really wanted to do since One from the Heart. And
yeah, it's another great one that you can put up against this in showing his you kind of otherworldly eye for things.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Outsiders, Rumblefish kind of have this energy, but those stories are just, they're not fantastic.
They're very stripped down, simple stories.
They have these little dream logic elements to them, but they're not about dreams. These are about harsh realities in which people try to, extricate themselves from. And then you get to something like Cotton Club, that's ruined by outside forces. And then Tucker, the man in his dreams, is his response, and only happens because George Lucas is paying for it. He's like, I'll give you some money to actually do what you want. And that's a great fucking movie. The revised version of Cotton Club is a very good movie.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to watch it now, all of the performances aren't wasted on what is a cut to the bone affair and actually makes sense. It's one of those things where you can tell the studio fucking with it absolutely fucked over that movie. They just did not get it and tried to make it into something that it wasn't.
Right.
And so this is an opportunity for Coppola to make a fake world with emotionally resonant actions, characters, and situations. Dracula is a kind of myth that allows you to swim in those waters in a way that Jack just isn't. And when he just tries to make a normal movie, it's that meme of why can't you just be normal screaming? That's Jack.
Yeah, Jack now feels like to watch Jack now feels like it's like a Tim and Eric sketch.
It really is.
The magical man boy.
It fails on so many accounts, and people are trying and whatnot, but it just doesn't. None of it works. It's just a bad idea given financing. And then they return the film back and they're like, cut a movie out of this. And everyone should have just said, this is the kind of thing we just go, no, this is a tax write-off. Whereas a lot of the movies that have become tax write-offs as of late are things we deserve to see. We deserve to see the fucking Toxic Avenger remake.
We deserve to see Salem's Lot, god damn it.
We deserve to see Batgirl, god damn it.
And was it Coyote v Acme?
Yes. I feel like these are much more successful movies based on everything we know about them. And yet Jack, they're like, I think this could be a Christmas hit. They're like, I don't know what you're smoking, but I desperately want some. But like everything that sort of comes out of this, from the impaling battle, against a backdrop that becomes shadow puppets, to the peacock feather that turns into a tunnel for a model train. Like the movie instantly becomes the best old fashioned film ever made. And they're making like George Méliès style effects work in a movie that also gushes blood, flashes butts and boobs, and is clinically horny. And that is something you don't see every day.
No, like you've got this great scene where Jonathan is meeting the carriage to go to finally a real Castle Dracula. You keep referencing people living in Castle Dracula. Now it's actually here. But you've got like, because as we know, because this is taken from the 31 movie, the carriage driver is also Dracula.
Yes.
So he's got these long fingernails. You've got the great kind of reaching out towards him, and then he picks Jonathan, and it looks like he's floating.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, fuck, that's so good.
Like, and every part of this should be ringing alarm bells. And
Jonathan's just sort of looking like, is this supposed to be happening? I guess.
I mean, is this how Transylvania works? Like, I don't know about you, Gina, but have you ever had a bus or train transfer where werewolves are an active fucking concern?
No, nor have we ever driven through a mysterious blue light.
Yes. You don't normally look out a train window ever. But when you do, you shouldn't be that fucking close to falling off a ledge. Every part about this is just fucking cool. That train looks like he's traveling on the surface of Mars.
Yep.
Is the book epistolatory? It is. Like, diaries are now train tracks. That's the way this fucking movie operates. If you look at that and go, well, this is very 1992. Please point out the other movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, what other movies can you point to from this period that look like Dracula? And so he's like, oh, what about Interview with the Vampire? Yeah, that came out after Dracula. Is deliberately trying to look like Dracula. A lot of movies did try for this kind of thing, but you don't criticize a movie that inspired other movies for the thing it inspired. That doesn't make any sense.
Spoiler alert, everyone. In a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Zodiac, 2003 Zodiac. And in my mind, the two of them, in a weird confluence, are somewhat similar in a vein. Because Zodiac is absolutely attempting to make the most modern 70s movie ever made. And this is attempting to make the most modern silent film ever made. Yeah. And as a result, you know, Zodiac is trying to do things that make effects invisible and unnerving, whereas Dracula tries to make these in-camera effects disorienting and unearthly. And to me, that's how they work. It just fucking works.
Yeah, no, it's so good and it's so eerie. And you've got this amazing shadow work where you know, Dracula is doing one thing, his shadow is doing something else, usually something threatening, which I love.
And for as rote as our idea of what Dracula looks like, this movie does not follow that formula. He does not have the tuxedo.
No.
He does not have the sash. He shows up essentially making his own Mickey Mouse ears out of his hair. And at no point do you look at him and go, that's a guy who needs to make London real estate deals.
Yeah, no, and as you say with, you know, as we keep repeating with Jonathan looks a little puzzled. And then he's like, well, all right, I guess that's how these crazy Romanians are.
I mean, I was sent here and the last guy came back eating bugs, but I guess it's just the way they do business around here. And one of the things I had read was someone going, why does Dracula need 10 different houses around London? To bring people back and kill them for snacks. He doesn't want to bring them back to Carfax Abbey every fucking time he finds somebody to snack on.
Right. It's for convenience sake.
This is not one of those things you should be very confused about. I was going to say,
this is also
A plus B equals dollar sign.
This is also something you question?
Yeah, I was amazed. There were takes on this movie that left me gobsmacked because they never tried to meet it on its level. They always try to institute what their idea of a Dracula movie is and how this did not find its way to that. And I'm like, it's not trying to.
Well, you know, I a lot of people, you know, rely on this for why, you know, pop culture criticism is, you know, kind of a sewer at this point, you know, a treacherous place to walk. And it's because of the cinema sin shit, where, you know, it's not enough to just watch a movie and accept what happens. You have to, you know, break it down. It's like, well, I would have liked it if not for this one tiny thing that just nagged at me throughout the entire movie. Like the fact that this one actor's accent was kind of a little shaky. And it's like, really? You're just going to flush the entire movie down the toilet because an actor's accent was shaky. Yes. It took you right out of this movie about a fucking vampire. Otherwise, I bought everything this movie was telling me.
As we all know, Gina, vampires are great planners. Just look at Jerry from Fright Night. It's like, I'm going to move to this Midwestern Rust Belt fucking town, and they're not going to look at me sideways at all. I'm just going to be allowed to operate and kill and decapitate at will. It's just not one of those things where...
Why are you looking for logic and reality in a vampire movie?
I mean, we make jokes. We love to make fun of the things we like and don't like, but they're not... I would not always call them valid criticisms of the film itself. We're having fun. Whereas... just to put it out there, Gina, based on the way Dracula acts with both Harker and later Lucy and Mina, he's got kind of anger issues, and I don't think he would make a very good U.S. president.
No. Well, also he's not a citizen, so that just
we haven't seen the birth certificate yet. Maybe Maybe it's a grand conspiracy.
But he's certainly a much better dresser than any of the Republican candidates. Although he may be wearing less makeup than JD Vance.
Than JD Vance. He was just slightly more natural of a look than what JD Vance has got going on, or Donald Trump, who just sticks his face in a tube.
But listen, if you walked into a room that JD Vance was in, he suddenly turned into a pile of rats. I would not be shocked by that.
You know what? You know what's crazy, Gina? When you want to get from one place to the next, and you're like, maybe it's missed time. You know what I'm talking about? Gina knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
So, talking about real men, let's get down to Seward, Morris, and Homewood, because Lucy is having like quadruples.
It is very much. She's not actually sleeping with them. She's being very forward and flirtatious in a way that was probably in actual Victorian society would have been a little frowned upon. Yes. But she's so pretty, she's so cute, she's so coquettish, and I don't know what she sees in any of them. I mean, okay, fine. Quincy's a hunk, fine, but yes. Arthur's a prude. Jack's a fucking morphine addict.
That's the thing.
You don't want to get tangled up.
He takes a real southward turn, and he's I don't know.
He does not take being rejected well.
No, it's time to shoot up in my insane asylum. That takes a special lot. Be honest.
It is interesting to see Richard E. Grant so young in this. Like these are all babies.
Babies. Even Anthony Hopkins, for that matter, is a younger version of Anthony Hopkins, someone who has been old since 1980s Magic, practically.
Yeah, he was on a run of doing some interesting shit, because I think this might have been his very next movie after Silence of the Lambs.
Wow, yeah, probably. So, he's nothing to sniff at. And I do think, in terms of Van Helsing's, it's interesting to have him be some sort of refraction or regurgitation of Vlad the Impaler at his inflection point. And then for him to be this science doctor who's big into science, super into science. But then when the rubber meets the road, Gina, he's like, let's bring crosses into this.
Oh yeah, he's like this is also a different take on Van Helsing, in which he is basically nuts.
Yes, he is certifiably nuts.
And he's having a good time doing this, which I think is a he's not scared. And he's just like, he's triumphant. He's cracking jokes. He gives everybody about 35 seconds to mourn Lucy's death before he's like nudging Arthur to put the stake through her chest. You laughed like a hyena at the shot where they slice Lucy's head off and it goes flying, and then cuts to a roast beef on a table. Yeah. Again, don't tell me this movie isn't funny at times either, because it is.
Yeah, and at that table, Mina's like, I just hope that she didn't suffer. And he's like, no, she didn't suffer. Not until we put the stake in her heart and chopped off her.
I mean, and he's just digging into that rare roast beef. No, that's great. Oh.
Yeah, all these people don't have worms in their brains is beyond
killing a beautiful young woman just gives such an appetite in me.
Oh God! But he is on one from the minute he enters
between him and Gary Oldman, it is like Hamfest 92, but it's because you gotta play it hammy.
There's nothing about this that requires subtlety. There's no subtle moments in the movie, so why does any of the actors have to be subtle or exactly hit their marks when it comes to accents or any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I bring you back to that. There is a scene where a wolf man is having sex with a lady,
right? Where after sex with Mina, and he starts biting her, everyone busts into the room. They're like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, turn it into a bat now. How do you like me being a giant fucking bat boy?
And now a pile of rats, blah.
Blah, I'm rats now. And everyone's like, we can't catch them all. That's not like they're Pokemon.
Listen, everybody is having a good time.
There is a sequence when they bust into that room and Keanu Reeves, this is the one element of makeup where I'm like, they're not doing him any favors.
Oh, because he got the, you can see the baby powder in his hair to,
he's got the baby powder in the hair, and the way it's lit in that particular scene, I was like, hold on. Who's the blonde cast member here? Who is Owen Wilson secretly in this fucking movie? Because he absolutely should not.
I do find it amusing that 6 weeks straight of the most insane 4-way sex anybody's ever had in their entire life, just stripped all the color out of his hair.
And yeah, he just got bitten in the penis so good. And you know what? He's just kind of ruined after that. I mean,
how do you come back from that?
I don't know. He is absolutely ruined, which makes his entreaty to Mina so odd, where he's like, I fear for your safety. Come hang out with my invalid ass.
I guess, I mean, my best assumption is that he thinks that, marriage will save him and help him reclaim his virtue.
Right. And when he says I was impotent to escape.
Yeah.
Van Helsing's like, yeah, I think you extended your stay probably a little bit longer than you thought. Right? The first 3 or 4 weeks you were into it, right? Come on. I think we can all agree that getting bitten in the penis over and over and over again.
Maybe the inner thighs if you're a little worn off, a little worn down.
Yeah, listen, they're attacking him from 3 different angles. And then he looks up into a mirror and his clothes are undulating because they can't be seen in fucking mirrors.
That's
I'm like,
so good.
Look at this. Look at how fucking good this is. I'm sorry.
I mean, I love that when Dracula walks in on them, like, 2 of the girls are kind of attached at the vagina. They're like fused together. That's
they're
like,
shunting
that's
in the middle
like,
of this.
I was gonna say that is how hot the sex was. They literally fused together at the vagina.
We didn't intend to scissor and then fuse, but it's been a while.
It's been 11 hours, so
yeah. And just one of them is Monica Bellucci.
Just one?
Just one of them is Monica Bellucci.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The fact that this movie was made for $40 million.
Incredible. And everything is done by hand, Patrick, by hand.
And then I just think if you tried to do this now, it would cost $240 million because no one would know how to do it.
And it would look half as good because you'd have to have the to the eyeballs transformation scene, whereas here it's just like, it's a trick of the camera. His eyes change color, his fangs come out. That's it. That is it. Like his face remains the same. He doesn't get the Neanderthal forehead, which was a thing in vampire movies. Right. It's just, he just still looks like a dude, but with like creepy eyes and teeth.
It doubled its budget in America, and then internationally it made $133+ million. So it made $215 total, and that's the thing. Like, it was so successful that Sony's like, this is an untapped fucking market. We need to do more of this. What's next in the Universal canon? We can absolutely make this happen. And they're like, get Kenneth Branagh to do Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? Absolutely. Get people who have no desire to make a werewolf movie, make Wolf? For sure. Are those people going to make peanut butter and jelly fucking sandwiches by a melting candelabra? Absolutely. If you have not listened to our wolf episode, I cannot encourage you enough because it is criminally under-listened to based simply on the fact that it is so goddamn gonzo. And yet, for long stretches, does not want to be a horror movie, nor does Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Like, that thing is a fucking disaster.
I've only seen it once. I don't think it made much of an impression on me. So do you think it's something we'll cover at some point, or is it worth revisiting just to
I mean, now that we've covered, we've kind of bandied this about.
I mean, we've got some
Draculas.
Frankensteins that's coming out next year. So
yeah,
it seems only fair we should probably do a little exploration into Frankenstein movies.
I think Frankensteins would be, and not their monsters. Don't bring me into that.
No. I mean, we gotta, that would give us an excuse to finally talk about May, a movie I like very much.
Sure. There's a lot of movies that sort of fit that little mold that we could explore. So yes, absolutely. That would be an interesting rewatch that I'm not looking forward to.
And it's one of those things where it's like, when you're watching it, it's like, this should work. Why is this not working? What's not clicking here? Is it a failure of scope? Is it miscasting? I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember think other than kind of indifferent shrug when it was over. But I am curious now to and particularly trying to compare it to what they were obviously trying to go for, which was this.
Right. And I think they absolutely missed the mark so fucking hard. And I have to assume a fair amount of that is from a direction standpoint. Just, I know that Brana is big into, I can be in a movie and I can direct a movie, and sometimes he can. But that is one of those things where I think the scope of that film needed an actual visual stylist. And it's not really his wheelhouse. Like, there's a reason why Thor became very different after the first Thor. They're like, okay, that's a Thor. And then after that, like, maybe we can make Thor. And then they got weird with it, and it infinitely got better.
Yeah, I think that what it is what makes this version of Dracula work is exactly that. They got weird with it.
And that movie is just chronically unweird. And while I think Wolf is plenty of weird in spots, the main issue with it is just, it does not want to really have any horror.
No, it's a little embarrassed of itself.
Yeah. It's like, that's not for me. It's like, you all decided to make a werewolf movie. And whatever this is not as interesting as when it becomes a werewolf movie. Why hire Jack Nicholson to pull back on the werewolf elements of it? But who's to say that we have gone down that route before? I do love that this film in its third act is kind of like, maybe we can make this kind of action-y where these four or five guys cannot stop stepping on their own balls. Around this, they are playing checkers, and
because they're out of their element.
Chess.
Who knows anything about riding horses other than like Quincy?
Right. And even he's like, I'm bringing my gun, and Van Helsing's like, that doesn't do shit.
And my big penile symbol.
Right. So this is definitely going to help. And Van Helsing's like, that is only going to get you hurt. And turns out it absolutely does. It's a bad maneuver on his part.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wonder he's the only one that ends up dead at the end.
True. That is one thing about this, that it's a tough choose your own death venture, because in a way, very few people die.
Yeah. I mean, you've got, suicide. I think, are we doing this now, or do we have more to say?
It just rang up because we were talking about deaths. No,
yeah, no,
we don't have to immediately stop.
It is a bloody and gory movie, but the death count is relatively low.
It's mainly an experience. It's very horrific. And it's absolutely, trying and succeeding to be a horror movie, but it isn't really death from the minute go. Like, Vlad comes back, Elizabetha comes back.
I have the impression that a lot of people who don't think much of this movie are also the same people who don't think much of like Long Legs and things like that, where it spends a lot of time just being creepy rather than actually going anywhere as far as the plot. And again, when I say it, I mean it as a criticism. It sounds like I mean it as a criticism. I don't. I actually prefer that kind of movie. I would rather a movie take its time, setting setting the scene and you're making the audience feel it at unease before starting in with the horror and the killing. But there are a lot of people who just if something hasn't happened in 10 minutes, they're like, nope, this is boring, I'm turning it off.
But so much happens in the first 10 fucking minutes of this movie. I wouldn't exactly call it a slow burn.
Well, no, but after that point, it does kind of take a little time introducing these characters.
It doles it out, and its extended ending and how that takes place while trying to be an action adventure, it has a hard time actually achieving that action adventure.
Yeah, I think that's the part.
It doesn't ruin anything.
I think that's the part that Coppola was least interested in. I think that what he was interested in was the rampant sexual tension.
Yeah,
and the old timey effects that he could use.
Whereas like when Mina and Vlad meet in the street, he's kind of like, "Oh, can you tell me where the sites occur?" And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing? I'm not speaking to you. You're not my husband." And he's like, "Come on, go to a movie with me." And then a loose fucking wolf arrives, and everyone's like, "Jesus Christ, let's get the hell out of here." He's like, "Oh, come over here."
Well, technically, I was going to say, technically, the wolf arrives, just about as he's about to give Mina her very first orgasm, and it's like then he got wolf blocked. So,
yes, but then there's that. It's a very Manhunter-esque sequence where he's like, "You touch this wolf." She's like, "Oh, I couldn't touch that." "Oh,
it's like when Jonathan ever let you touch a wolf. Oh no,
Jonathan, the kind of guy that lets you touch wolves. And then you just go around town having fun adventures together.
Well, what I like about it is again, in comparing it to other traditional renditions of Dracula, is that there is like a sequence where he comes to dinner. And he like here, like Mina is not related to any of the other characters, whereas in other traditional times she is, I think, Dr. Seward's daughter, I believe.
I know, it's so confusing. They so twisted.
Generally speaking, there's a father-daughter relationship here, but that's not really present in this one. So you don't have that moment where Dracula comes to dinner and is making everybody, making the men, putting them out and vaguely offending them with his weird European ways where, meanwhile, like, the women are like, oh my,
That's so inappropriate. I appear, Wadsworth, I appear to be sitting in a puddle.
Exactly.
Does anyone know?
I need to go powder my nose and, meanwhile, and like they're basically doing like the Lenny and Squiggy biting the heel of their hand thing. But there's not really like, obviously Dracula has encountered Jonathan, but there's never any other moment until they confront each other after he's already turned Mina, that he's met these other individuals. So that's why at the beginning I said this isn't really about the xenophobia so much as it is the here I come to steal your girl kind of thing.
Yes, he is Count Steal Your Girl,
right?
Absolutely. And he just doesn't close the deal fast enough.
No, because he's trying to be all, he's trying to be tender with her. He's trying to be loving and, but he just needs to like, there, now you're done there. Now take care of me. Okay, good. We're done.
Are there any other components of the movie that you want to elaborate on?
I mean, yes, but we can't make this into like a blank check 4-hour long episode.
That was the thing. Like, this was originally on for like 2 episodes. And I'm like, is it 2 episodes? Because there's really not that much plot to go through. But it is one of those movies you could talk about for 10 minutes or 10 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, it's like, it's such a visually driven movie. Like, if you're listening to this and you somehow have never seen this movie, I strongly recommend watching it before listening to it, because it's like you're missing out on a lot. I am better in describing in writing rather than speaking, how a certain scene has moved me in a way. So
you should have told me that before we started a podcast.
I know. That's why you get the points across better than I do. And I'm like, absolutely. I totally agree with you. But no, there's just, I mean, yes, there is a lot more I want to say, but I had to be reasonable and curb my enthusiasm, as it were.
So let's choose our own death venture of the very short amount of deaths in the movie. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? So let's go. I guess it's commit suicide into a river.
Yeah. I mean, are we counting all the dudes that he speared?
Just impaled.
Impaled. Okay.
Impaled. A general impalement is absolutely up there.
Are we counting that Lucy has died twice?
I think we can count each.
Okay.
Either you die by having all your blood drained out.
A blood explosion. It's kind of a blood explosion a little bit.
Yes. And then you die a second time when a stake is put into your heart. Not a wooden stake, mind you, a fucking rail spike. And then they cut off your head.
And it turns into roast beef.
It turns into roast beef. After that, those dudes are spent. Like, it's going to be hard to go back to loved ones after that. They all look like, the only reason that I enjoy Mel Brooks's Dracula Dead and loving it is because of two reasons. I love it because of Peter McNichol's performance. And I love it because of the scene that parodies that when like, again, another blood explosion. You got a horse that's killed.
You got a night watchman that's killed. I think you don't. Yeah. I'm going to assume that he dies.
One of the boys dies, don't they?
Yeah, Quincy B. He gets stabbed. He gets stabbed in the back. Right, I think he's stabbed in the front too, but he gets stabbed. Don't forget, you get Renfield, who I assume his neck is broken. Yeah, he's just sort of like repeatedly thrown against the bars of his cage, and I think eventually like his head just goes to the bar. So I'm gonna say like either massive head injuries, crushed skull, or broken neck.
And then Vlad, who reverts to his younger self, and then it's like I think maybe it is time for me to go. Like, I give it a whirl. And it's not working out the way I wanted it to, even 400 years later. And so Mina stabs him in the heart. And he dies.
And chops his head off.
It's a lot of head chopping and stabbing.
Yeah.
Neck breaking.
Yeah. I don't, as much as I love. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess if I want to talk about something a little more, I would have probably gone into how much I enjoy Tom Waits' performance.
He's fucking.
I just love that, like he like Francis Ford Coppola went through a run of movies where he's like, I have this relatively small supporting role. How about Tom Waits? We'll put Tom Waits in it.
How about the guy who sounds like bad cigarettes and cold coffee?
Yeah, he's just like I do. He's not in it a lot, but every moment he's a servant. I really do enjoy it. Because I just enjoy Tom Waits as both a person and a singer. I gotta say that I kind of really enjoy the sweaty majesty of Lucy's first death. I
agree.
I like the juxtaposition of her dying while Mina and Jonathan are saying their wedding vows, and then they're kissing with the tongue. Which is like, it's like, where do you learn that? That wasn't invented back then. I mean, I think it was. I assume it wasn't, but like, and all of a sudden, like, her room fills with blood. But like, I like it. I like it. She looks great.
She looks great. Looks like it's a good time.
She's got, I think she
Way to go.
I think she looks like she is coming and going at the same time. You get my drift, and whom's among us wouldn't want to go in such a fashion?
Yes, you. I believe you've nailed it in one, Gina. I'm with you entirely. In terms of being with you entirely, of course, I'm with you when it comes to the fact that listeners should check out our Patreon for bonus episodes. All sorts of bonus episodes for you, commentaries, Q&As. We got it all for you 3 times a month. So if you love the show, check that out. If you love the show and you haven't rated and reviewed us, please do so in the podcatcher of your choice. Let us know what your favorite death is in any of the movies we covered. And hey, we're still into talking about it on the air for you, the Kill by Kill listener. Of course, you can also check out Josh Hollis at joshhollis.com for artwork and Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com for this remix and all our other themes. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television on my Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am on most social medias under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. That is it for today, but don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.